America's mayor live. I want you to look at this face. Now, this is these are world leaders, and this is the face in the middle of it. Do we have it, Ted? Or you want me to hold it up?
Hold it up for now, but I'm downloading it.
There it is. There it is, right there. I want you to look at that face.
I got it up now. I got it up.
Okay. I want you to really focus on that face. I want you to look at the fact there's absolutely no expression on it. Each one of these guys got an expression on their face, like they're alive and thinking. There's no expression on that face. You want that to be the face of America for 4 more years? What do you think is going to happen to that face in 4 years? Think it's going to get better? Instead, if you vote for this guy 3 years from now, you can have somebody in the middle of this thing cackling. That's the alternative to cackle. Vice President cackle. But look at that face. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you've had any experience with people with Alzheimer's or people with dementia, and it's a very, very sad thing. I mean, it's tragic. It eats your heart out. One of my best friends had Alzheimer's, and he died before it came to quite as bad as this, but it was pretty bad. And he lived with me for a good deal of the pandemic, but it was never like this. He wasn't as bad as this. I'm telling you. I mean, could tell. Dr. Me diagnosed him with it 5 years ago. I didn't think he's going to run for president. When, I got accused of collecting I had all the criminal information on him, more than enough to try a case anywhere in any court, more evidence than I ever had in any case I ever tried before he ran for president. And I put it out before he ran for president. I put it out on Fox. I put it out with Mr. Solomon. I did it on my own, and I gave it to the State Department. And I even offered to prosecute it myself. There were a lot of people who turned it down, by the way. They didn't want to touch it. Senate, no, he was a senator. Yeah, well, he was a big crook, too. Don't you want to straighten out the name of the Senate and get rid of a big crook, or is that kind of like par for the course? I don't know. Oh, gee, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Look, when my country is involved, I'm not terribly delicate, From the very beginning, to me, when I saw this, yeah, sure, all the rest of the stuff I collected on all of the crimes they committed in Ukraine, which really proved that Hillary Clinton bought and paid for an entire frame-up. That was why I was there, and that's what I collected. And that's what I demonstrated, and that's what I proved, and that's what we all proved. And it should have been enough. I mean, it should have been enough to end all of them. The Russian collusion scam should have been enough to put them all in jail, including Prince Obama. Obviously, Brennan. Clearly, Biden, who was part of it. And of course, Hillary. But it was covered up. It's covered up, and then it became an attempt to remove a lawfully elected president by fraudulently paid for evidence. Again, you got Shifty Schiff, who was one of the instigators of it, running for the Senate now. Should be in a federal prison, not Bannon. He should be in a federal prison, and so should the guy who put him there, the Attorney General, who for the last 3.5 years has seen Bumble Dumble walk around the White House and not know where the hell he is. He took an oath of office, our crooked Attorney General, to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution says if the president's unfit, you should take him out. You're violating your oath of office, you creep. Boy, God was looking down on us when they kept you off the Supreme Court. Whoa, are you a crook? American people don't even know how bad you are. You're like Mr. Bar Association. They love you in the Bar Association. You're a major crook. But this face, you want this face to be this is the face of Dorian Gray. You know who Dorian Gray is? Any of you know who Dorian Gray is? Dorian Gray was I think it was a novel first, and then a great movie. And the man was not as bad as Biden, but he's a pretty bad guy. He was evil, really evil guy, and his face began to show how evil he was, but he couldn't see it because he was demented like this jackass. Well, this is Dorian Gray on steroids. I don't think Dorian Gray sold out his country the way this guy did. Not to China. I mean, not to our worst enemy. Now, people say there's no proof, there's no evidence that he got money. Shut up and listen. Just listen. What is evidence? Evidence is a fact or a group of facts, right? That is allowed in court to be used in a criminal case to determine if the prosecutor is offering it your guilt. The classic piece of evidence would be an admission or a confession by the person who did it, like if Biden confessed, which I would say his video constitutes, or a text by his son in which he says to his daughter, Hunter's daughter, for 30 years, I've given half my salary to my father. Sorry, liars, Democratic liars, all of you. That's evidence. You may not want to believe it. You may not want to accept it. You may try to disprove it, but it's evidence. You can't tell me that what Michael Cohen says about Trump is evidence and what Hunter Biden says about his father is not evidence? Well, of course you say that because we don't live in a just system. We live in a Soviet-type system that you damn Democrats have put on us because you've been playing ball with the communists since the time of Woodrow Wilson. There is powerful evidence in the form of an admission by Hunter Biden that his father was getting, over a 30-year period, half of everything Hunter got. Now, without anything else, without my telling you the 90 other pieces of proof that I have, doesn't that make sense? Doesn't it make sense that when the Ukrainians were given him millions, the Ukrainian organized criminals were given him millions, it was not for him, it was for his father? Doesn't it make sense that China wasn't putting $1.5 billion into a private equity company involving him and Whitey Bulger's nephew? And they were putting it in so they could get Joe Biden just where they wanted him, where they got him? Does it make sense that the $5 million that we can show you penny for penny going to the Biden family was for the big guy, for Joe? Not just 10%, but half of everything Hunter got. What the hell are the Chinese doing paying Hunter Biden, a completely degenerate drug addict who was such a bad drug addict that the psychiatrist for his niece wanted him 50,000 miles away from her? Except Joe never intervened to help his niece any more than he's met with his his granddaughter. Face up to it. He's evil. You know what evil is? The face of Dorian Gray. Here it is. This is called evil. Right there. People are dead because of him. 13 Americans. Most of their parents would come right out here and tell you that. Anybody else were president? those kids would be alive. Anybody else were president, a couple 100,000 people in Ukraine would be alive. No way Putin was going to invade. Trump bashed him with that at the debate. You know, they talk about how he lost the debate. Trump won the debate gently, if he can ever be gentle, when he pointed out that Putin loves to invade. When he sees weakness, he saw weakness in Bush at the end of his term, getting beaten up by the Democrats. He saw a little change in state, and I can tell you about sometime. And he said, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to do anything. I'm going to go in and take those parts of southern Russia that I wanted and straighten out Georgia. He didn't do too much. Really almost not enough. But he showed if he can take advantage, he will. Then communist-trained Obama comes in, and now we know. I mean, I could watch them talk to each other, and I've met Putin. I could and Obama. I could watch them talk. I could tell you what was going on in Putin's head. Putin was saying, "What the hell? I was the head of. I'm a KGB killer, and I got some communist-trained youth organizer here, some kind of social worker. Me against a social worker? What are they, crazy? I would take this guy and spin him around, and he got himself back into the Middle East. Jerk off got him back in by putting the red line down 12 times and not doing anything. Then when he saw him give money to terrorists, he kind of figured out what everybody in America was afraid to figure out because he's black, that he's a traitor. Who the hell gives money to the Ayatollah? The Ayatollah, it'd be like giving money to bin Laden. The Ayatollah is a terrorist murderer of his own people. You give him cash money? And we sit by and say, oh, nice Prince Obama, nice Prince Obama. So we invaded under Prince Obama and took a big chunk of Ukraine and said, screw you, what are you going to do about it? And Obama didn't even give Poroshenko, who another massive crook, didn't even give him weapons. I saw Poroshenko about 8 months after that all happened, and Poroshenko said, because Poroshenko, of course, said very bad things about Trump before Trump was elected, because he's all tied in criminally with Biden, big time. I mean, the two of them have whacked up money. Poroshenko said to me, you know, for all their talk, Obama and Biden, they gave me pea shooters. They wanted me to fight the Russians with pea shooters. I said, what do you mean? Well, they didn't give me any guns. It wasn't until your guy came in that I got the real guns. And I was able to push them back. So he sees Trump. And what does Putin do? Does he invade like he did under Bush? Does he invade like he did under Prince Obama? Does he invade like he does big time under the biggest pussy of them all? After he makes an absolute disgrace out of himself and out of our country in Afghanistan. I mean, he just I mean, Biden went so far as to say, you know, well, if he does a little invasion, what the hell is a little invasion? When he said that, doesn't anybody say to themselves, this guy's dangerous for the national security of the United States? The president can say little invasion. I mean, are we so brainwashed by the Democratic Party that we don't think for ourselves anymore? When he said that, I went nuts. Every time Putin played him for 2 months, like a harp, to get him to say, no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. Oh, we don't want you to do it. Don't. No boots on the ground. No boots. No, we don't want a war. No boots on the ground. No boots on the ground. No boots on the ground. very carefully. Putin looks at that, builds up the army on the eastern front, builds up the army to the north of Ukraine, and comes in, takes what he wants, gets his road to Crimea. Now we've given them $200 billion, and I don't think they've moved Russia an inch. Not only that, we don't even allow them to fight Russia in a way that they can win. Because Biden is afraid that if we fight too hard, there'll be a war with Russia. Yet he goes in front of NATO and tells them we're going to win. Now, he doesn't think those people are smart enough to know that, number one, he's a major bullshit artist. Number two, he's a complete, absolute, consummate coward. And finally, he doesn't have a brain left. All you got to do is look at that face. Just look at that face. The face of Dorian Gray. Very, very sad. Very, very sad for our country. And this is not about whether he should run for office. The man should be immediately removed as president of the United States for the good of this country. We'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. And now it's really live because we have Dr. Maria with us.
Good evening, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be with the mayor and pleasure being with his audience because his audience are very well educated and they're not being fooled by this Biden administration.
Well, Doctor, I'm going to first ask you about, there was this Dr. Potts who was on, and he was on CNN with a well, I don't know what they are now because they were pro-Biden. Now they want to defeat Trump, so they want to get rid of Biden. So it's hard to know. Well, in any event, he did a rather definitive sort of analysis of Biden, saying that given the way he moves and that he has Parkinson's.
Yes.
Now, and then some other doctors have said you can't really diagnose unless you actually see the person. Now, just let me ask you one other question.
Okay.
It would seem to me with dementia, if I take tapes, I got 100 tapes, 55 years ago and 50 now.
Hmm.
I should be able to come pretty close to a dementia diagnosis.
Yes.
If the guy can't talk and he can't. But what about this Parkinson's thing?
A couple of things. One, I'm going to encourage your audience to watch frankspeech.com, my new show, the Dr. Maria Show, 3 p.m. on Thursday, because I go into detail about dementia. Dementia
Will
in
tomorrow?
over, yes, tomorrow, 3 p.m. But briefly here, dementia, the term dementia is not the disease. Dementia is the syndrome. Kind of like we say acute coronary syndrome, and underneath that we have myocardial infarction, we have heart failure, all kinds of things. Same with dementia. So you got dementia, and underneath dementia, you have Alzheimer's, which is the #1 dementia worldwide. And then you can have Lewy body dementia, another protein buildup in the brain. You could have dementia due to Parkinson's. You can have vascular dementia, on and on. I saw that little clip with that physician, and he was a little bit cocky because some of the dementias look alike, and it does take a little bit of time to differentiate. I do admit there's things that look Parkinsonian with Biden, but there's also things that look vascular because of his background in his aneurysms and having hemorrhage in the brain and decreased blood flow to parts of his brain. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, I used to, when I was a provider in the emergency department and I practiced emergency medicine, I'm a board certified nurse practitioner, so I can practice independently. The doctor part is my PhD in healthcare administration. I used to say I can see an inferior MI, myocardial infarction, layman's term, heart attack. You can have different parts of the heart that are starving from blood flow because of a clot. But I used to say, I can see an inferior MI from across the parking lot because they looked a certain way. They had the typical signs and symptoms of a
No,
heart attack.
you've actually diagnosed. I've seen you do that with lesser illnesses and say
Yeah.
that person has a cold or that you can just look at a person.
It's from experience. So this doctor may have had so much experience with Parkinson, he was very confident. What we do know, even the lay person knows, it's dementia. What kind? Alzheimer's versus vascular versus Parkinson is yet to be told to us.
That could be a couple, right?
And it can be a couple. There's what's called mixed diagnosis of dementia in frontotemporal and all
So
kinds
he
of
was operated on,
1988. Yeah.
And it was like two
Two aneurysms. So it
with like two operations, right?
two different operations. So he had been suffering. He was running for president. Remember, this is the famous run because he was lying to the people of New Hampshire. They called BS on him. And then Sam Donaldson and all the other journalists or anchors of news shows came out and said, this guy has no future. He's a pathological liar. He's a plagiarist. And he ended up getting pushed out of the race. But in February of 1988, he was suffering from a lot of headaches and neck aches. And allegedly, a doctor told him he had a pinched nerve in his neck. He passes out in a hotel room. He was unconscious for quite a while. He goes back to Delaware, and then he has another passing out episode, goes to Walter Reed. There was two portions in his brain called aneurysms. Aneurysm is a weak spot in that vessel. And what you worry about is it rupturing, hemorrhaging. This is how people who all of a sudden, oh, my head, drop dead. And you can't resuscitate them because it hemorrhages so badly, so quickly. Well, sure enough, by the time he got to the hospital, he did hemorrhage a little bit. Enough they were able to save him, but he was near death. It was a very serious situation.
I remember at the time.
The papers at the time, and he was a presidential candidate and a known senator from Delaware. So they fixed one in February of 1988, very, very long surgeries. They're like up to 9 hours. that part of the brain was starved from oxygen. We carry oxygen on our red blood cells.
And that could do long-term damage.
That can, of
That
course
doesn't
it can.
really manifest itself until 10, 15, 20 years later.
Well, yes, and it can be a progression. And then he had a second one, I think that May of 1988, he had operated on.
Did they admit that second one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple of others that seem kind of foggy.
Yes, you had brought up on one of your
In
shows
the 90s, there
that-
were allegations that he
Yeah.
had other
strokes, that he had strokes.
strokes,
Yeah.
and they say no. And I mean, all I can tell you is they're allegations.
Yeah.
And during the period of time when I saw him again after all of that, I did think he had become different.
Yeah.
I mean, so this would have been like 1993 when I spent time with him,
Oh, really?
working on
Over
the
the crime bill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and 94. But you know, honestly, I didn't pay attention to it because, please, I mean, I always considered him very, very stupid. So I don't know. You go from stupid to a little more stupid. You know,
Yeah. Now
the
it's
guy
so
would say
ignorant.
silly things. He'd say ridiculous things. He couldn't really. You really couldn't talk. I mean, you really couldn't talk things out with him. Like Schumer, for example, is very smart. Whatever else you think about Schumer, which isn't very good.
Little people are smart.
But I mean, he's really a dummy. And so it's hard to pick up.
What?
If a very, very smart person starts to act like that, you know, you're going to realize, oh, like my friend.
Oh God, I love
right?
your friend.
My friend was brilliant.
He had a diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
And all of a sudden, you know, you see it, it's stark. But with a dummy like that, I mean, he's got no brain to start with.
Yeah. The problem is, Rudy, that you brought it up. I happened to pre-tape my show this afternoon, and I brought up the fact that we have elected officials who didn't do their job. I go over on my show the
It's a
20th
disgrace.
Amendment.
It's a disgrace. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if people realize this, but I mean, they take an oath to uphold the Constitution.
Oh,
And if you see a man who's demented, you got to do something about it.
there was people who
Except
allowed
I-
this cover up. And I don't know why. We should always do the right thing. And if I was a Democrat, right, I always try to, maybe I'm a little Pollyanna,
You are, but no, that's good.
but I always try to put myself in someone else's shoes because we all think differently. We all have life experiences that cause this prism how we digest information. And I think, okay, I'm going to put myself in a shoe where I tend to vote Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. Okay, first you had during the pandemic, the Biden White House censoring important information, telling me that a vaccine is safe when there was known side effects, especially for people under 40 years old, especially for males under 30 years old. They hid that information and people died. Okay, so I got my party who did that to me, went after people who opened their businesses because they wanted to feed their family, but yet they could go to, you know, a liquor store, but we can't go to church. We can't have our business. So they do that to us. Then they do another major cover up, and that's Joe Biden's mental health. And we saw it. You saw it. You did a wonderful podcast 4 years ago, and it was a cover up. And I interviewed a lady named Angie Wong. She's a former journalist. And I asked her, is there any ethics in journalism? Those journalists are in front of Biden frequently. They're never allowed to ask questions. They're shuffled away. They've seen stuff, but they did not report on it. So I'm I'm a registered Democrat, and I'm like, this party is corrupt as hell now. They're sexualizing children. They want to kill babies up until birth and after. I'm getting out of this party, whether I go to the ones that are already established, independent, libertarian, Republican, or I develop a new one. But heck, I would make a stance against the Democrat Party.
Can I read something from a journalist that I admire greatly?
Sure.
One of the few, Michael Goodwin, who was on my show the other night. This is from his column today. I couldn't say it any better, so I'm going to read it. The Times isn't worried that China, Russia, or Iran will carve up the globe because Biden is asleep at the wheel. They aren't worried about Israel or other allies around the world. I might add, they're not worried about the 10 million would-be criminals that he led into the United States who were raping women and killing children. No, the only risk they care about is that Trump will win in November.
Yeah.
Now,
Trump
that
winning
echoes
could-
the approach of George Stephanopoulos' interview with Biden. His questions could all be boiled down to one. Can you beat Trump? Not can you run America?
Yeah. They don't care about our country.
There are no questions about how many bad nights the president had and whether he was healthy enough to function during a national security emergency. The result was that the ABC event amounted a little more than a Zoom call for nervous Democrats.
Sorry. I had to say that. That's funny as hell.
When I call them Pravda, don't look at me. Pravda was, of course, the news service for the Soviet Communist Party. They're actually more rigid than Pravda, and then they repeat the same words, debunked and
Yeah.
Now it was just an episode.
But we've seen it.
Everybody could have an episode like that. Real? Have you ever had an episode like that? If you have, go see a doctor, please. My goodness, if I had an episode like that,
It's really not funny. I shouldn't be laughing.
Would take right to
Well, of course, because I care about you as a human being. I would make sure you get the right treatment.
Nancy,
I wouldn't.
who has no natural parts on her face, Pelosi said that, is it an episode or a condition? What are you kidding? I've seen that 1,000 times.
You know what? Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris have the same thing in common.
Yeah.
Alcoholism.
Do you think so?
Because I'm a provider, and especially where I've been in emergency medicine, I recognize these things. I've had to report doctors. I've had to report nurses. I know when people are impaired, and Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi, I've seen impaired a number of times.
Well, first of all, Kamala seems impaired all the time, so she must be drinking from the minute she wakes up in the morning.
Yeah.
Has she ever said anything that makes any sense?
No.
That hasn't to me. I mean, the last time she made sense is when she was accusing Biden of racism in the first debate.
Yeah.
And then it
she was
all
right.
downhill after that.
Yeah.
She made up the whole story about being on the bus. And
Rudy, did she come out after the debate? Remember, there was some people who came out like they were shocked that he's demented, which
no,
I don't know why they're shocked.
no, she did the.
I believe saying he's fine, right?
Oh yeah. She's lying she's lying a backside.
And when I went out,
at least Pelosi's been like.
Yeah, she's riding the fence. But Kamala, she should be brave. But maybe, I guess I've led my life where you always have to do the right thing. Even, I won this big award one time. It was like, even though I'm too young to have a lifetime achievement award. And they had some people comment. And I remember a colleague of mine saying, Maria doesn't care who's in the room or what the flavor is. If her opinion she wants to be heard, she'll make a case for it. And that's been true my whole life. I was very different in healthcare, which on my show I'll go into a little bit more, but
just so a patriot.
Yeah, and I try to do the right thing. And I love the Constitution. I love my country.
First, and the first thing that came to my mind when I saw the criminality, which now goes back 5 years, was my country. Not even my client, my country.
Yeah.
My client, I had plenty to defend him. I had, first 2 hours, I had everything I needed. I mean, it's clear. I mean, and we proved it, and we completely exonerated him of Russian collusion. The only thing I can't imagine is how these people keep their Pulitzer Prizes and and then they keep going on. I mean,
you want to hear a truth?
I count at least 4 or 5 cover-ups, and it's the same people. I don't know what the saying is, but lie to me once and you lie to me twice, and I'm a jackass.
Fool me once, fool me twice, something.
Yeah. Well, how about Russian collusion? Quid pro quo. Hard drive.
Pandemic. Vaccine.
Censorship during the pandemic. The vaccine will cure you. I can take you into election 2020 if you want. The hard drive cover-up.
We have to go into the
Uh,
2020 election. It's the point.
January
Yeah.
6th, Trump people. Nobody was killed by the Trump people, definitively, and and their police that they were running, and Pelosi has actually took responsibility for it. She doesn't know she was on tape. Probably maybe she was drunk. I don't know, but in any event, there is a murder. It's the murder that we turned the evidence over to 3 or 4 days after it happened,
Yeah.
to what I thought was an honest prosecutor. And that's the murder of Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah.
That's
And
going to be solved, damn it. It's going to
Three
be solved.
other peaceful protesters died that day.
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
I was in charge of a police department that never closes a murder case. Never, never, never.
You're right. That's a huge
We
cover up.
never
That's a huge
close a
cover up.
murder case. This is a murder case. First degree. There was absolutely no justification for taking her life. She did not pose a threat of any kind to the man who shot and killed her. And it was a setup. Damn it. And if you look at the Johnson tape that I have, you cannot escape the fact that it's a murder case. And they don't give a damn. They don't even bother to investigate the criminals who were on the January 6th committee.
No, nobody outside that room, outside that area was questioned at all. Bird got away with it.
How much are you going to let these people get away with, huh? They've taken your country. They're taking your children away. In Virginia, the children are property of the state. In New York, they're property of the state. In New York, they can chop their genitals off and not even tell you.
Mm. God help us.
It's America.
It's a devil.
Of course it is.
I don't
It's
mean to be
evil.
melodramatic, but
it's
it is
all-
evil.
And, Jack's book is going to be out soon. Jack Posobiec's book, Unhuman. Got to get it. Shows you how all of these little pieces, not little, big pieces, come together. Marxism,
Before,
atheistic
whoops,
communism.
I didn't mean to interrupt
That's
you. I
okay. That's okay,
apologize.
Doctor.
Just before you release me and I leave,
I like it.
I wanted to talk
You're not
about
releasing me.
something
You're under a
very different, very
right to
different.
remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. If you want a lawyer and you can afford one, we'll provide one for you. Okay.
So Mayor Giuliani and I worked together. We used to have a hit radio show together. I'm president of one of his companies. We're business partners with a coffee brand, Rudy.Coffee. We are extremely proud of this coffee and the quality of it. Rudy.Coffee. I encourage you, once you try this coffee, we've already seen it. People are reordering. But we got something new. If you go to the website, Rudy.Coffee, we now have cold brew. So
Warm
I
summer?
feel like we owe that to Ted, who loves cold brew. So
Come on, Ted,
we
say
now,
something, babe.
we now have that available. And then soon
Hmm.
we're going to be partnering for wine from Argentina.
Ah. Don't cry for me,
Mhm.
Argentina. We always remember just the first lines.
Those of you,
So therefore, we can't get upset with Biden when he says, "I pledge allegiance to the flag." You know that thing.
so on our radio show, Rudy and I, obviously every human being, you have differences, you have things that attract you together. Us, I think it's our love of country, and we loved patriotic music, and we would sing. And my father was one of our biggest fans. He never missed a show, but I forget what we've been singing. And my father, right away, right after the show, says, "I don't think you and Rudy should sing anymore."
It doesn't matter what you say about her show. You could say her show is great. You could say her show is awful. Only matters what her father says.
Yes.
I mean, she could have the
Don't tell me
greatest. She could have the
everything.
greatest show. The owner could call and say, "Best show ever." Her father, I didn't like the way you looked.
Oh yeah,
2
it's
minutes
always
in,
about that. Your hair
it's fine.
was a mess.
I didn't. You made a funny face.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way daughters are, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm a baby.
Okay, I got a couple of little things I got to
Okay.
bring up because they really, and it always is Democrats. So my major contention is Democrats for a while, like about 20 years, should not be allowed to run cities. It should be illegal for Democrats to run old cities because they have destroyed all of them.
It's true.
And you can't find me an example of a single Democrat who's ever done a damn good thing for an old city. I can find you an example of a couple of Republicans.
You are the number one.
Me. Ed Rendell in Philadelphia. Sorry, Ed. He was a really, really good mayor of Philadelphia. He was a Democrat. He went bad later. He was a good.
Oh, was he a crook?
No.
Oh,
Ed's not a.
I don't know
Ed,
the
Ed,
name.
Ed got a little too. He's still not all that left. He wasn't nearly. I mean, he could get angry at me, but he wasn't nearly as good a governor as he was a mayor. He's a really good mayor. So I'm thinking of a Democrat who was a good mayor. That's the last one. I mean, the recent one just set a record for homicide in Philadelphia. How could he be a good mayor and set a record for homicide?
What kills me, Rudy?
They have a Soros GA. They have a Krasna
Yeah,
who's really
Krasna.
an outrage. The guy should be in jail.
Yeah, like what happened to holding people accountable for the role that they're supposed to do? But what kills me about Philadelphia, same thing about Boston, which I have a love for Boston because I live
Well, what do you
45
think?
minutes
You've got
from Boston.
Pretty wacko mayor there too.
These historic cities that were the birthplace of America in our fight for independence. Boston, definitely Philadelphia had the convention, but it was, all they're like wackadoodle radical left now. And the mayor of Boston literally had a Christmas party, holiday party. She'd probably never say Christmas, but no whites invited. And no blowback. No, it did get national news, but there was no real outcry.
Remember when the crazy mayor of Chicago during the pandemic wouldn't let
Beetlejuice.
white reporters ask questions?
Yeah. Everybody would
But-
say she
but,
looked like.
and then the black reporters would drive her nuts. Well, now the new Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Yeah,
I wish we had
bad to work.
I wish we had like music or horns or something that could blast like breaking news,
Oh.
da-da-da-da,
Or a drum.
something like that, right? He actually, this must have been a heck of a lot of scholarly research. This weekend over the 4th of July, there were 109 plus shootings in Chicago and 19 murders. And I think it's higher than that. I think that was about 2 days ago. Those numbers.
Black Lives Matters, because I'm sure they're mostly black people getting shot. That's
Yeah,
been
I
the
would say,
truth
I don't even
of
have
the
to look at
matter.
it 70%.
Yeah,
But
where are the Black Lives Matter?
About 70%. But I mean, you really have to admire this guy. He has figured out who caused it. Richard Nixon.
What? Say what?
Richard Nixon caused these murders. Black
That's
death has been
messed up.
unfortunately been accepted in this country for a very long time. I don't accept it. I reduced black murder 80%, even more than white murder. I saved more black people in New York than any mayor in the history
That's a
of
fact.
America.
Bum.
Saved their lives.
Yep.
So don't screw around with me, jerk off. Now, how about black death has been unfortunately been accepted in this country a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes. And people mock Lyndon Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon.
Lyndon Johnson was a racist.
If anybody contributed to the dependency
Yeah.
that has been enormously destructive to the wonderful black community, which is great society. You want to know why I left the Democratic Party? Because of the crookedness that the Great Society brought about in urban America.
Yeah.
And these political parties, including his damn political party in Chicago, they're all crooks.
What did Johnson say? He'll have blacks voting for Democratic way by giving them everything. It's actually telling them this is their message, not mine.
He created generational dependency.
You people cannot take care of yourself. You need a government. So I'm going to give you everything. Your culture will disintegrate. The family unit will disintegrate. You won't want to, after a couple generations, go out and work. This is what they think of black people.
Do you know what? Do you know? I can tell you a lot of the ways I brought crime down. Do you know how I kept it down? Workfare.
Yeah.
I required people on welfare to work
It gives them dignity.
for 19 hours a week
It's the proper.
while they
thing
were
to
looking
do.
for a job.
Yep.
And if they couldn't find a job, I gave them one. I gave them one in the Parks Department. I gave them one in the Human Resources Department. I gave them one in the libraries. I gave them one. We had plenty of places where they could work. And what I wanted to do, what I was rediscovering, what I was trying to bring back was the work ethic, because Lyndon Johnson's Great Society destroyed the work ethic. We were into second and third generation welfare. That means this kid doesn't have a father and mother, a
Doesn't have the role
grandfather and
model.
grandmother,
You're
or
right.
anybody around him who goes to work.
Yep.
How did you learn to go to work?
I saw my parents
Yeah,
working hard.
Yeah. And how did kids that grow up in strong Black families learn how to go to work?
Because their parents
Yeah.
went to work.
And how do you learn not to work when nobody around you is working and they're on welfare 3 times? And they're having more and more kids so they can get more welfare.
Ah, there you go.
Oh,
Thank you very much,
Did you put it up now,
Theodore.
Ted? Okay. Well, let's put it up now.
Oh. So,
I'm getting the Brandon Johnson clip, actually. But yeah, I'll
Oh.
put that for you right now.
I mean,
people, we saw
you know,
something you didn't thinking it was going out to all you, but
60 years of Democratic control in Chicago.
oh,
And he blames it on Richard Nixon. 60 years ago, I'm sorry, idiot Johnson, the Democrats have been in control of that city like the communists are in control of China for 60 years. You control it completely. It's crooked as hell. And nobody else can be responsible for the deaths in Chicago, because nobody can touch Chicago except you crooks. And you don't give a damn about your people. I do. You don't.
amen, brother.
Go ahead.
Seriously.
Play this one. I want you to memorize this.
Now we're jumping back right
Yeah,
into
yeah.
Hunter Biden.
Put up.
What do you want to do? You want to Johnson first?
Between
Oh,
them.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mayor, when you were mayor, you forget how bizarre it is. He's blaming Richard Nixon of all people, but you didn't just go out there and blame other people for the problems. You identified the problem.
It's not my job to blame anybody. It's my job to fix it. Then you can blame later. It's pretty clear what happened. I mean, my goodness, you got to be a moron.
There's this great,
I mean, Richard Nixon gets blamed for a lot of stuff. Never heard him blamed for black crime.
there's this great thing. I think the title is Gotham, the fall and rise of New York City, and it spans 6 mayors. And repeatedly, people in the documentary say, Mayor Rudy Giuliani saved more Black lives than any other mayor in history. Mayor Rudy Giuliani decreased taxes. Mayor Rudy Giuliani gave people dignity by helping them get to work.
500,000
Yeah.
moved over from welfare to work. 500,000 population.
Oh, go ahead.
Is that the moron?
Yeah, go ahead.
Put him on.
And he is a wackadoodle, by the way.
Of boys between the ages of 10 and 19 being either victims or the perpetrators. So, yeah, it is personal. Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon. I'm going to work hard every day to transform this city. That's what it takes to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. I need everybody to step up. So we cut off the pipe.
Political party nationwide is about.
Victims?
It's about victimhood. It's
Yeah.
about racism.
Yeah.
It's about perpetrating
Dividing us.
racism.
Don't let them do
And
it.
it's about continuing the enslavement of a certain number of black people in America's poor cities. They are serfs of the Democrat Party, and they're kept that way, so you can get that 90% vote. It's a tragedy, and Lyndon Johnson started it. Generational welfare is all on the back of Lyndon Johnson, and you want a crook. You want a crook. Just read the first volume of the biography of Lyndon Johnson. Go ahead. By a Democrat.
He
written by
would
a
bribe
Democrat.
people on the Senate floor.
He fixed his first damn election. He fixed his first election with a guy he put on the Supreme Court.
Oh, boy.
The guy get thrown off the Supreme Court. Well, Robert F. Kennedy, the father of the guy running, went crazy when his brother selected him for vice president, largely because he was a crook.
Yeah.
And one was a
I think the
more
old man,
practical-
Joe Kennedy, was a little bit.
the old man
nice
probably
too.
didn't find anything wrong with it, and John was a much more go along get along guy, and Robert was a stickler.
Well, I think you're going to break.
I think I better go to break before they break me. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. I know you all turned off because Dr. Maria is not here. Right? I'm realistic. This is for radio, right? I wanted to bring this up while she was here. Hunter Biden has now withdrawn his motions for a new trial. And I have a hunch. Now that he's been known in several newspaper articles, including some of the left-wing pieces of crap, he now he's been called the proxy president, actually. Man, that must really go to his head. He figures he's got a pardon all wrapped up. I mean, this judge is not going to give him a new trial. Although I will say that the Supreme Court's decision on gun control, on Second Amendment, could give him some issues on appeal with the court. I don't think so. I think you can distinguish a situation of a government wanting to protect itself against a convicted criminal or a drug addict or an insane person carrying a gun. I don't know that, and I very much think the Second Amendment is desperately needed to defend yourself. But I also think, like any other right, there are some reasonable restrictions on it. And I don't think that right extends to a person who's, let's say, I don't think Joe Biden should be allowed to get a gun. I think he's mentally incompetent. The same token, I don't think Hunter Biden wasn't just a drug user. He was a 30-year-long degenerate drug addict. I don't know how many times he was in and out of rehabilitation. I don't know how many times rehabilitation was a farce where he was taking drugs during rehabilitation. And you got him hooking up with the drug, and the prostitutes would come to the rehab center. So, you've got we used to call it a degenerate drug addict, as opposed to just a drug addict. But however you would describe an extreme drug addict, Hunter Biden, and all you have to do is look at the photos, the 1,000 photos on the hard drive that I have, and it would prove that he's been a lifelong drug addict. I seriously doubt that while his father's been in the White House, he hasn't used drugs. I would be shocked. I'd be shocked. It'd be the only time in his life that he ever went more than, I don't know, half a year or less. He couldn't stop himself from using drugs after his father pulled strings to get him into the military, even though he was overaged and didn't fit any of the criteria. The only way they'll put you in overage, you have a special talent or that they need, like a doctor of some kind or a scientist of some kind. He was doing public relations, but that hardly is a specialty, public relations. We got him because the vice president took illegal measures to get him in. And the first thing he does is fail he can't even stay clean. He can't even stay clean for a few months, so he passes his first test. They blow him out on his first test, and it was a major amount. That's when his wife says she first started to believe he was a drug addict. I'm not sure I believe that, but what's the use of disproving that? And the drug addict part is the pathetic part of this. The worst part of it is that his father used him the way he did. The bad guy here, 100% is Joe. It is not Hunter. Hunter may be a bad guy or not, or Hunter may be a victim. I don't know what the hell Hunter is. I do know that Joe is the reason that Hunter is the way he doesn't have to be that way. He could have used somebody else as his bag man. There are plenty of bums in Washington that would have done it for him. Man, oh man, the Democratic Party is filled with crooks. I mean, you don't think at another time, another place, Shifty Schiff wouldn't have done it for him? I mean, Shifty Schiff would take anything that wasn't locked in. The guy's a massive liar. Or Swalwell with, what was the name of his communist spy that he was with? Fei or Fu or Poo. Fang. I wonder how many secrets he gave away. Hopefully not too many. And what about Dianne Feinstein? 19 years. And nobody bothers to look at what usually, always, if you get caught with a spy, they do a massive debriefing to figure out what kind of damage was done to the United States of America. But if it's a senior Democratic senator, screw the United States of America. Let's save Dianne Feinstein's pathetic reputation. I knew Dianne. I like Dianne. I don't like the fact that she had a communist spy with her for 19 years and got away with it. And then I look at San Francisco and I see them give a tremendous celebration for Xi Jinping like it was Caesar returning from the Gallic Wars, done by the creep they have as governor now, Newsom. What the hell are you doing a celebration for a mass murderer? That'd be like giving a celebration to Hitler. Or Stalin. I mean, there were people around Franklin Roosevelt that would have probably done the same thing with Stalin, but the Democrats have been infiltrated by communists for quite some time. The French elections are worth looking at. They are. They're worth looking at because even though they all teamed up on the right-wing candidates, and in their screwy system, they say they came in third. Actually, they came in first, right? In the percentage of votes. And if you look at the breakdown of the parliament, right? Macron's party has they actually have more seats. They have, the far right has 143. The right has 39. So that's 182 to Macron's 150. And that's 182 to the new Popular Front, who they claim won it, with 178. They have 4 more seats. The most seats in the French parliament are held by right-wing members. 143 of the 181 being considered far right. So this is spin the wheel. It's like Joe Scarborough's Mika Brzezinski's wife the other day said, "Oh, I guess we're not going to spin today." Wow. But she got it. Man, I'd never put her in the CIA. Her old man was like a national security expert. I always thought he was a big phony. I thought everybody thought he was smart because he had an accent. You ever know the guy fighting in the car, and then we'll do nothing about the hostages that are there because we're afraid of Iran. And of course, yeah. I mean, think about Carter, and he was the architect of Carter's foreign policy. Thank God for Carter that Biden came along, or even Obama. Obama was worse than Carter. They keep saying that Biden bails out Carter, but Obama bailed him out. I mean, Biden is a worse president than Obama, I think. But I don't know how much worse you can get when you're giving cash to terrorists. I don't know. Terrorists who specialize in killing Americans, and who did. He was giving money to them when Soleimani was still alive, before Trump had him done away with, which Biden disagreed with. So the point that I was trying to make about here, you can look at it for yourself if you want. That's the French breakdown. No, the red and black and pink are the conservatives up to here. Right up to here. It's this part right here is the conservative part. Yep. The greenish part are the centrists, and the bluish part, or I don't know. If you look over there, they try to fudge it up because they don't want to show you that. And then they try to break out. Far right from right, so that it looks like Macron's party has more. But the reality is, they have considerably more than Macron's party, and about 3 or 4 more than the New Popular Front. Now, the New Popular Front, you should know, is the anti-Semitic party. The New Popular Front is the pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist, pro-Iran, anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, anti-American, left-wing enemies of this country. That's the New Popular Front. They're the ones that kind of turned this election a bit by having a big burning weekend in between the 2 elections. Because that's what the left wing does when they have protests. Remember January 6th? I don't remember anything burning. Every single Black Lives Matter protest, something burns. Well, same thing in Europe. When the left wing does it, they do it right. They burn. But Italy, gone right wing. Germany, heading that way. Now, UK is really a reaction to a conservative party that we would call here rhinos, right? So the left wing had a big win, which is exactly what needs to happen to the Democratic Party here. The Conservative Party was taught a lesson. They're going to have to reconstitute themselves, and nobody better than my friend Mr. Farage to do that. All of them unite around the fact that illegal alien entry is out of control. And their illegal entry is nothing compared to ours. Nothing. Theirs is like ours used to be in the old Bush, even Obama, even the beginning of Trump before he got it under control. You got to understand that Biden has taken it to a different level. So even now, when he's saying he's reducing it to a number that's higher than it's ever been in history, built on a base that's higher than ever before in history. We've got, at a minimum, 10 million Biden-invited aliens in this country who either haven't been vetted at all or have been vetted in a cursory way. And it's the reason why the completely useless head of the FBI is screaming and yelling that there are more terrorists here than ever before, because he's afraid he's going to get blamed for it. He couldn't do anything about it. I mean, if I knew what was happening 3 years ago, he did. He's the head of the FBI. I'm not. What the hell did he do about it? Nothing. Let me cover up for Biden. I mean, this has been an administration of cover-ups. I don't know how many. My God, I mean, the border, Mayorkas, the border is secure. People come. The border is secure. 10,000 a week. The shelter system in New York is overwhelmed with illegal aliens who are committing massive crimes and destroying neighborhoods. And they were, in addition to Biden's invitation, the mayor of New York added to it additional benefits you get in New York, no place else. Even now, he's given them credit cards, debit cards. Even though he's complaining that he doesn't have any room in the shelters for them, basically he's thrown out all the veterans. He's thrown out a lot of U.S. homeless people. They're getting treated like crap. And it's filled with, what, 65,000, 70,000. And if you come to New York, he'll give you a debit card, so you don't have to eat the food in the shelter if you don't like it. That was the premise for it. A lot of them were complaining about the food in the shelter. So he said, okay, you can go out and eat. And that was a pilot program. He didn't. Now the program has been expanded dramatically. He doesn't give us numbers, but it's been expanded dramatically. This is going to solve the problem. So, originally, he was talking about they're going to come in here, they're going to revive our economy. Then he set up a jobs program, and 5% showed up for work. I'm telling you, Adams, people from Venezuela are not coming in for work. Maduro's letting them out of his prisons, his insane asylums. Not sending you his best people. You see the murders that take place? See how many are Venezuelan? You think you're getting the best people? Well, the Mirage Hotel is closing July 17th.
That's sad.
Yeah, they get, but somebody's going to take it over. I don't know if they're going to knock it down or they're going to make a new, hotel there.
Yeah, what does it say?
It doesn't say if they're going to not. Hard Rock is taking it over for a splashy new Hard Rock resort. Sounds to me like they're going to take it down. I think so. Had you ever stay at the Mirage?
Never.
I did a few times. Yeah.
Never.
Gave speeches there.
This is Vegas, right?
Yeah. It's it was put up. It's actually pretty new. It was put up in '89.
I stay at the Wynn Encore. I haven't been to Vegas in a while, but I'd stay at the Wynn Encore.
It was
Mr. Wynn. Yeah. Steve Wynn's got good places out there.
It was
The Mirage is like one of those
It
classic,
was put up just
right?
at
Yeah.
the time that the government was in the process of taking a lot of Las Vegas away from the mob, which they had control of through the Central States Pension Fund.
Were you involved with any of that?
Yeah,
The-
damn it, I
the
brought the
Vegas?
case against the Teamsters. I brought the case that cost the Republican Party the endorsement of the Teamsters Union, which they may be getting back this year. And I got,
That you
and like everybody hated me then, they all wanted me removed from my job
Why?
because the Republicans were PO'd at me because I brought the case against the Teamsters and they were the only union that supported Republicans.
That's right, because
Bobby Kennedy.
the Kennedys.
So it was
Yep.
really interesting. Kennedy, they were Democratic union, like
Yeah.
I don't think a communist union. No, there
1960.
was that whole split AFL-CIO between the communist unions and the non. The Teamsters was sort of their own. The Teamsters were a mafia union, so they wouldn't be a communist union. Mafia, as they say very, very prominently in The Godfather. After all, we're not communists.
1960.
But Kennedy went after them in the 50s and then had the big debates with Hoffa in the late 1950s before his brother became president. So even by the time of the 60 election, they had turned on the Kennedys. And for the first time, they supported a Republican, Nixon. And Nixon, they were in with Nixon really tight. They supported Ronald Reagan both times. And then I come along and bring a RICO case against him during the 88 election cycle. And they switched their endorsement to the Democrat Party. The Republicans get really upset with me, except for one person who defended me, Vice President Bush, who had the most to lose since he was going to be the nominee. He lost their endorsement because of Jerko here. And he said, he's just completing the work that Robert Kennedy began. What are you complaining about? From then on, I adored 41. And now they've been reconstituted, their board removed. They've been completely removed from organized crime, completely removed from Las Vegas. It's helped to clean up Las Vegas. Joe DeGeneva, who you see very often on TV, was the guy who was like one of the major trustees who helped bring it about. Did a brilliant job.
They got a nice building in D.C.
And it's a good, solid
capital
union now. And they are now debating. They're debating whether to endorse a Republican, and therefore they were uninvited to the Democratic. The minute the Democrats heard they were even thinking about going back to the Republican Party, they uninvited them.
Boy, you
But you
hand
can't-
it to them, right? At
you-
times of jumping ship.
An opposite thought. God forbid if you say it, they shoot and kill you. But if you think it, they go after you.
Isn't that why they're in such a tough spot right now? Well, what we would consider a tough spot. They're shameless, right? But
They're never in a tough spot because they just lie their way out of it. And then they got these people they brainwash who agree with them, like at the press. You know, look, every single one of these press people shamelessly has gone after Biden only because they want to stop Trump.
yeah,
None of them stop to think, what kind of damage, if this guy is this bad off that we got to get rid of him as a candidate, right? What kind of damage did he do to the country since he has no mind?
yep.
I mean, when you have no mind, you got to do some damage. But they don't even bring that up. They don't even bring up, gee, maybe we got to take a look at the damage he's done for the last 3 or 4 years, since it's now clear that his administration was covering up his senility. No, that doesn't even occur to them. They're not even Americans. I mean, it's the first thing you would think about is, well, gee, what kind of damage is this guy doing?
Oh.
Well, one of the things that they're doing is letting all these people from Tajikistan in. We don't know how many. They caught a bunch of them that were involved with ISIS, but we got somewhere between 50 and 400 that are unaccounted for, terrorists. Now, this is very, very interesting because this goes back to how I got deeply involved in the Trump campaign to start with. And that's when President Trump said that he was going to have special rules for terrorists, from people coming in from terrorist countries. which they made into he's going to discriminate against Muslims. Well, it's not my fault that, 3/4 of the terrorist country are Muslim. Okay, go be something else, and we'll discriminate against you. All right. So I helped to write the legal documents on which his policy was based, upheld by the Supreme Court, by the way, reversed by moron. There should be extra vetting, serious extra vetting from people from dangerous countries. You know how many questions we ask the Chinese? Shouldn't the Chinese be asked more questions than just about anybody else? Don't they want to come in here and spy? I mean, you don't have to be one of the 51 intelligence prostitutes, or like I like to say in New York, whores, to know that the Chinese want to come in here and spy. So don't you think at a minimum, you would ask them more questions than, let's say, somebody coming in from Great Britain? They were complaining about a year and a half ago that they get asked too many questions. So the guy who's on their payroll limited to just four. We basically, the Biden wants to make sure that the communist red Chinese get in without delay. Not just get in illegally, but they get in without delay. He's also flying them in with special deals that he makes with private charters. Nobody asks him about it. Nobody. Why do you think he got all that money from China? Is our press like stupid? Or what? You don't think there's a connection between, probably turns out to be about 40 million, but okay, let's say 30 million, 31 million to the, and let's leave Joe out of it. Let's make believe that Hunter never said that he gives half to his father, like the press wants you to believe. Let's say the money just went to everybody but Joe. So the Chinese gave Biden's family, all the people closest to him in the world, $30 million over the last 5 years, and a $1.5 billion investment in a private equity fund that his son and the son of John Kerry, John Kerry's stepson, and Whitey Bulger's nephew are part of. So the Chinese put all that money in. Now, all of a sudden, around the time that he is disgracefully, criminally, and in a murderous fashion to our innocent people, withdrawing the troops from Afghanistan and leaving the civilians behind to be slaughtered, he, for no reason that we can absolutely in a million years fathom, he gives up the Bagram Air Base, 400 miles from China, recently refurbished, right on the border of China, with no explanation. You don't want to even raise the question. Did all that money going to your family from the Red Chinese, including your son, saying that he's partners on tape with the spy chief of China, that influenced you to do something that is monstrously against the best interest of the United States and give up an airbase 400 miles from China? We're searching for one now within 1,000 miles of China. Nobody, do you know nobody's raised the connection except me? Millions of dollars to the family, an airbase 400 miles from China given up. Not to mention the fact that we left about $80 billion worth of armaments there, taken by the terrorists, used to kill the people who helped us in Afghanistan. So the fact that he is demented is not just like an interesting academic fact. It results in the death of human beings because people in government have control over life and death. You choose the wrong mayor like Adams and you can get people killed. Or like this Brandon who thinks Nixon is responsible for black murder in Chicago and not him, by being in favor of defunding the police, for example, or by being in favor of putting people out who shouldn't be out and should be held and be incarcerated awaiting trial. I mean, he's in favor of all of the left-wing, let's put the criminals back out on the street and kill innocent black people. So that's why elections are a matter of life and death. And this one is a matter of life and death for the greatest country in the history of the world. They're going to kill it. They're killing a lot of it. A lot of it's gone already. We're going to have to bring it back. Our justice system is gone. Our educational system, what they're doing to our kids, they think they're property of the state. The first stepmother thinks that. Please stay with us. Come back tomorrow. We'll be on Frank's speech at 7. We'll be here at 8. You can go on Frank's speech and listen to us. You can download it. You can also see Dr. Maria tomorrow when she's going to give you a very, very in-depth analysis of all of this confusing medical stuff with Biden. And I got to tell you, nobody explains this stuff as clearly for laymen and women than Dr. Maria. Even I understand it. No, I mean, seriously, she's got a real talent for that. And that's what we need, because we need to understand, because people, they lie to us about science. I mean, look what they did during the pandemic. So you come back tomorrow. We're going to have plenty more to cover. We're getting real close to the conventions. We're going to be there, Dr. Maria and I and Ted. We're going to be there starting on the first night. We're going to be covering it. And, you know, and then everything else that's going on around it.
We'll be in my neck of the woods.
I suspect.
Packer country.
I suspect that the Biden people have something in store for us during the convention.
Uh-oh.
No, well, not even so much to take attention away from Trump, which would be hard to do. You hard to take attention away from that guy, but to kind of a good time to bury things. You know, it's a good time to bury things. Let Trump have his day, but you can bury your stuff under it.
He's going to take the attention the wrong way, Mayor. He's scheduled to give 2 speeches that week. Biden is. And I think it's going to end up backfiring on him.
He's absolutely out of his mind.
Yeah.
Don't go up against the convention successfully. You let him. It makes much more sense to let him have it. Let him have there until the last night, and then send me to screw it up.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about that tomorrow.
All right.
I'll tell you. I won't tell you my plans for this one, but I'll tell you a couple of my prior great screw ups for that. I'm screwing them up. So we'll see you tomorrow. Pray for the people of Israel. Pray for everybody in the United States. Pray for the people in Ukraine with that 2 corrupt governments whacking up the money. And God bless America.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are